So, what am I going to talk about today? Does anyone know? Of course you do. So, welcome to the White Mountain Education Sunday broadcast. And today I'm going to be talking about how the future controls the present, which I think is an absolutely fantastic theme to think about and to talk about in today's world historical situation where we're also stuck in the present. You know, we really are. I mean, it's so easily done to be stuck in the present, but even more so today because of the worldwide news that we have access to, you know, from so many different countries and certainly our own. So the future controls the present. Agni Yoga places an emphasis upon the importance of striving toward the ever-expanding perfection. As we consider the momentum of striving toward an ever-expanding perfection, the thought about future then comes into our life. So ever-expanding perfection and future, these are the points to use as seed thoughts for your meditation. Some people believe that we have no control over our future, only our present. But as you're going to learn today, in reality, we do have some control over our future, more than perhaps we ever realized. In the writings of Torquem Serdarian, we are told that our future can control our present if we so choose. As you study philosophers, you're going to learn that they were most content into thinking about and planning for their future. So, for example, Rumi, the famous Eastern scholar in the Middle Ages, wrote this poem that is still today so well known. Once I was a rock. I died as a rock and became a flower. I died as a flower and became a bird. I died as a bird and became a man. When did I ever decrease by dying? The first three stages of that poem, referenced in his poem, are controlled by the forces of evolution. The rock, the flower, the bird. But once we become human beings, we can accelerate our evolution through our own efforts. In the book Leaves of Moria's Garden, it reads, "He who carries the knowledge of the future can walk boldly, even upon shaky stones." The first thought that comes to mind with this instruction is we must courageously advance to light. Which is a very odd statement, that we must courageously advance toward the light. But when I think about the light, I think about the light of hierarchy. I think about the light of God. I think about the light of the masters and those brilliant people who walked before us and gave us the teaching. And so it's not so much courage for me, it is more desire and preparation and hope that leads me in such a way to advance to the light. But some people must courageously advance to the light because the light is so revealing. And that's what really takes the courage, is the revealingness. Is that a word? I'm not sure. but we'll make it today. So the revealingness of light brings forth karma. It also brings forth potential as we advance into the future. So we want to take advantage over what we know to create our future out of the present today. To be successful in this journey of many lives does mean to travel with courage. During this journey, it also means that we're going to meet ourselves many times. For example, St. Sergius told his disciples, "You must depart, otherwise you cannot meet again." I was preparing today's talk on the anniversary of the passing of my oldest son, which was January 24th. So this is my gift to him. I'm thinking about how we will meet again. Many of you have lost family members, young and old friends. Have you ever stopped to think about meeting again? Will you meet your spiritual teacher again? Over the years since the passing of my beloved teacher, I think about when we will meet again. How will we meet? Where will we meet? When will we meet? There are many stories about the shared incarnations of Helena Roerich, the founder of the Agni Yoga teaching, the teaching of living ethics. Her master, Master Moria, like St. Sergius said, we will meet again. You must depart, otherwise you cannot meet again. Buddhism often uses the Jataka tales, the stories of Buddha's past lives, to illustrate how our deep attachments and care for others continues across lifetimes. And here's the story. Long ago, a Brahmin lived with his wife and 3 daughters. When he died, he was reborn as a magnificent golden swan, retaining the memory of his past life. As he flew over his home, he saw that his wife and daughters had fallen into poverty and were struggling to survive. Moved by compassion and recognizing them as his family from his previous life, the swan flew down and perched on a railing. He spoke to them with a human voice, explaining who he was. He says, "I have returned to help you. I can give you one of my golden feathers, and then you can sell it, and you can live in comfort." So he gave them a single feather, which turned into pure gold. He promised to return occasionally to give them another. Ideally, this would have sustained them for a lifetime. However, after several visits, the wife became greedy. She worried the swan might stop coming or fly away for good. The next time he comes, she told her daughters, "We must pluck all his feathers at once to ensure our fortune." The daughters, loving their father, refused, but the mother was determined. When the golden swan returned, the mother tricked him, grabbed him, and tore out all his golden feathers. But because they were taken against his will and out of greed, the feathers instantly turned into ordinary, worthless crane feathers. The swan, now unable to fly, was in pain. Eventually, his feathers grew back, but they were plain white. He spread his wings and flew away, never to return. The story illustrates that while we are connected to our future lives, through the consequences of our actions, grasping at the past or trying to control the future through greed severs the connection. The future life is determined by the quality of the consciousness in the present. The future life is determined by the quality of our consciousness in the present. If you want to know your past life, look at your present condition. If you want to know your future life, look at your present actions. So we must meet ourselves. We must also meet one another again and again and again. We must have a future in our mind. This future can be anything we want it to be, but we must realize that thinking about the future does take effort. To think about the future means to visualize, or to imagine, or to think about something that we want to be in the future. So the future is what we want to be. To have a future is to have a destination. If we don't have a destination, we are wandering. And when we are wandering, we are wasting our time and energy and life. So this is something to really make a notation about, either mentally or to write it down. First of all, the future is what we want to be. And it means we must have a destination. So as we take this idea into our consciousness today, it can really change how we think about ourselves. And we can think about next week, next year, but most importantly, how what we are doing now is creating our future, and that's destination. So what do you want to be when you grow up? We must have something on our mind of what we want to be. Something that is really beautiful. Not something elusive. Not something like, well, I want to be a millionaire in the future, or to have children, or to carry, or to marry, or to have lots of houses and cars. That's may happen, but that's not our destination. To have a future is more than that. The real future is where you want to be, really want to be somebody. You really want to be something. Don't you really want to be somebody? We all do. And when we think about the future, we are not including any age factor. Now this may seem surprising, but in the teaching there is no ages. This is why it's called the ageless wisdom. We are going to have continuous incarnations. So don't think or factor in old age. Don't factor in old age. Or even childish ages. A childish age would be, or a childlike age, you'd be a 3 or 5. But when I go back and I think about my little ones, at that time of their life, they were so full of what they were going to be when they grew up. So we bring that thinking into each incarnation as we left it when we were making our transition. So don't factor in old age into your considerations. There is no old age. Only the body ages. Only your clothing age. You leave yourself behind. You leave that clothing behind, that body behind, and you proceed. You leave your old body and you proceed. We must think in a new way. That as we make the decision to build a future for ourselves, don't consider your age. It saddens me to hear people talk about once they die, that's it. That there is no future. That they're going to float somewhere out in space, but they won't be there consciously. I can't even imagine living like that. I think it would be a terrifying idea and so short-sighted because we have so much evidence around us that says life continues. And the greatest example we have is nature and the four seasons. They come and go. The trees come and go. Species come and go, come and go. And then listen to your heart. When someone passes, you shouldn't automatically think they're gone. And you're not going to if you listen to your heart. Because the future will be in your heart. Your friends will remain in your heart. But you must let your heart be open and responsive and receptive to life, all life. So we must think in a new way. It is not our age that is important. Don't consider, even if you're 93 or 107, it's not your age that is important, it's your future that is important. It's your destiny, it's your destination that's important. You have a future. Here is, I've quoted this, you have a future only when you consciously build a future. So imagine there is a well-known political television star who does not believe in the continuity of life. He doesn't believe in religion either, and I'm not going to name his name, but I've given enough, you should know who I'm talking about. And he doesn't believe that there is a future, so he's not going to be building his future. He said, don't be like him. You have a future only when you consciously build a future. I remember, I'm going to digress a little bit, but I can remember about 35, 40 years ago, we had a young man in our family that died. He was 22 years old. Such a gorgeous young man, so intelligent, very, very service-oriented. And he was driving in his little MG car, and he was going through an intersection, and a drunk driver came and smashed into him, and he died about 3 days later. And I remember sitting there because who are these trucks that pick up smash trucks. I can't think of the word. Anyway, they hauled his little MG over to our aluminum building that we had a business going in, and it was a big garage. And so they brought the car into the garage, in the factory garage. And I remember sitting there in a chair just looking at it and thinking, something's wrong here. And it's like, all of a sudden I realized that's an inanimate object. You know, he's still alive. And all of a sudden, all these signs for the next several days, when I would be driving to work each morning, I won't go into the whole thing, but all these signs that represented him. And that's when I knew life continues. He was trying to tell me, sure, he died young and it was a tragedy, but his life was not over. His spirit was not over. And that was the greatest gift that he gave to me. Of course, my family thought I was a little, you know, but in time they began to look for signs as well. It was really interesting. So you have a future only when you consciously build a future. Here are 6 points to consider when we begin to consciously build our future. The first is our age is not important, because we can start something great on our 93rd birthday. Don't worry about dying. The future is within us. Like a sail on a ship, it will carry us on the oceans toward our destiny. So don't give up. No matter what age you are, if you give up, how are you going to continue? Master M said that every time Helena Rourke passed away, she continued her work wherever she was found or existed. Mostly, she continued again in physical incarnation. So we must get rid of the fear that aging will stop our progress toward our future. Isn't this beautiful? The second point is difficulties. The point is that our future is not limited by the difficulties in our life. Our future is not limited by the difficulties in our life. The minute some people have difficulties in their life, what do? They give up. Success is just around the corner. One step more, and you would make it, but you turn back. In this consideration, when we are building our future, don't even think about what difficulties we may face. Look where you are now. Look how far you have come. You are headed toward your destiny, so don't give up. Abraham Lincoln faced all his difficulties, and he had a future. He did something. Difficulties meant nothing to him. He became somebody because of the difficulties. If you want to be somebody, then ask for the difficulties so you can overcome them. You always refuse to accept the truth. If you always refuse to accept the truth and to face reality, you can never advance if you always refuse to accept the truth. The future is not limited by the difficulties of our life, so don't consider the difficulties. The Master says that once you dedicate your life to hierarchy, there is no turning back. If you turn back, you didn't dedicate. You were a hypocrite. But if you dedicate yourself, there is no turning back. That's the second point. The third consideration in building your future is not to be affected by what people say about you or what they do against you. If you decide to be a great leader, but worry about what people say about you or about how much they slander you, you can never proceed on your path. Great leaders know these things are going to happen, and let what is said about them become like wind in their sails. I was thinking back when I lived in Florida and was young and had, as an ordained minister, I was participating in the local pastor association. It was a very difficult experience for me because I was on a very different spiritual path than they were. And I was young, and I was a woman. 3 strikes against me. But it gave me courage. I was the only woman. I would attend meetings where there were only men, pastors, beautiful, beautiful pastors, that would talk about their wives. Until one day I said, you know, I'm a pastor and a wife. So think about that as you deliver your sermons to us. And then there was a time when I was officiating at a very large wedding. And there were 2 pastors attending that wedding, not officiating. They were friends of the bride and groom. And they came up to me and asked me why I was officiating at the ceremony. I said, well, I was invited. And they said, but it's not right. It's not right. And I won't go into what else they said. But what was so exciting is it did not stop me from being a beautiful officiant for their wedding. It was a beautiful wedding. And I loved the couple so much, and I was really into it. And what was so wonderful afterwards, after the ceremony was over and everybody was at the reception, the 2 pastors came up to me and shook my hand and said, we understand now why you were invited to officiate. So that was a big experience for me. And there was like 250 people there for that wedding. I could have walked away. So it was a difficulty that I had not expected, but it helped me to grow. Failures is the 5th point. Your future is not affected by your past failures as long as you do not identify yourself with them. Don't bury yourself in guilt feelings. Guilt is going to paralyze you. This is one of the greatest tests for disciples. To overcome any guilt, renew yourself. As the Bible says, like the eagle which renews its feathers, you are going to grow new feathers and fly to new heights. The past is buried. Karma will bring the bill, and I hope you are rich enough to pay it without feeling strained. The next point is your future is not affected by the death of your body. Your body dies, and you receive a beautiful new one, which you worked hard to have. So why worry? The Bhagavad Gita says that a wise person never worries about people who are living, nor for the ones who died, because it is all phenomena. The soul continues either way. So I hope you have a conviction about your soul, that you know without any doubt that you have a soul, and that the soul continues. So many people live continuously in fear. Wouldn't it have been short-sighted if God had created this masterpiece of a human being and then destroy it after a few years? And that's what came as a revelation to me when that young man in our family died at 22. It's not possible to create such a beautiful human being and then to snuff him out like that. Have you ever created something beautiful? A child, a masterpiece painting, a book, a piece of music, or other things? Would you think of destroying your beauties? Of course not. The next one is your future is your unfolding divinity. Our divinity is the treasure hidden within us. When you create something greater than yourself, you see your divinity. You see your divinity radiating through what you created. You can see your divinity released into expression. When you are thinking about your future, remember that your future is your progressive unfoldment of your inner potentials. Your progressive unfoldment of your inner potentials, of your inner glory, of your beauty. There is one essential point for you to remember. As your divinity unfolds, you become a more useful person. Having millions of dollars and being able to spend it in Las Vegas is not what matters. What matters is that you get closer to your inner divinity. You become more useful, more helpful. The greatest reward of a human being is to be in a position, in a condition of beingness, that you can help others. And the last one is service. Richard Gere, a well-known Hollywood actor and Buddhist, when he was interviewed, was asked what he felt the purpose of his life was. He fell quiet. He pondered the question for a few minutes, and then he said, service. He said, I was born so I could serve others. Read the teaching, then become an initiate. Read about it. Then become an arhat, where your consciousness works continuously in the intuitional plane, not the mental plane. You are beyond that when you are an arhat. Then become a master, a kohan, or a resurrected one. These are suggested futures. You don't have to think about them because you automatically become those things if you really serve, if you really decide to have a future. And here's a quote. He who carries the knowledge of the future can walk boldly even upon shaky stones. Who are the shaky stones? The teaching says most of your friends are shaky stones. People who come and promise things with a smile, and then they never deliver. People who call you a friend and then stab you in the back, they are all shaky stones. Sometimes the great Master M calls them flickering lights. They promise that they will do this or that, but then they don't deliver. These are shaky stones. The beautiful thing is that the wise person will know which are the shaky stones, and they bury them under their feet and continue on their journey. So in your choice of your future, you will never count on shaky stones because they do not provide a passage on which to cross over the river. When you are building your future, never consider help from other people. People want to start something great by collecting people to work with them. When Mother Teresa started her work, she never considered getting help from others. What she asked for was for God's help, and help from those who had awakened spirits. She didn't want nor ask for help from those with dead spirits and big egos. No one can do anything for you or for anyone else unless they're doing it for God. Do good things for God. This is the teaching, and look at how beautiful it is. Do not fear. When you are interested in your future and what you want to be, eventually you're going to reach certain conclusions. Number one, if you want to live a painless life, you must not cause pain to others. If you want to live a painless life, you must not cause pain to others. The next is to be joyful. Can you be joyful in your family when everyone else is depressed? Can you? Give joy to others. Build a joyful environment around yourself. But if you are exploiting others, taking their money, their life, their energy, and then throwing them away, you're not going to be living a joyful life. If poor people live around you, how can you think that you are successful? You are a great failure. Look and see things very, very carefully. You can be successful among those who are successful. And the last one, perfect endings. You said that you were going to finish a painting, a book, maybe a university course, a meditation course, etc., but you didn't. You said you were going to build a temple, but you didn't. You started something, but then an interruption came and you didn't finish it. When you bring things to a beautiful ending, you are going to be successful. You will be successful when you bring things to a beautiful conclusion. And in conclusion, the Master says, success is then when one can set forth upon a new journey. Success is then when one can set forth upon a new journey. Start something new, a new project, a new book, a new painting, a new university course, a new meditation course, so that you always meet the just completed achievement with a new achievement. The future higher evolution will belong to those who live in joy, who share joy, who spread joy. It is wonderful to be occupied and fused with joy so that eventually you become the distributors of this principle and change the principle of pain and suffering. This is the greatest service we can do.